Hey guys, this is TPW talking pro wrestling. This time is AEW Rampage results. This week's show was on another early time schedule due to the National Hockey League being on TNT. Most people got to see action before the sun even set. Mogul Embassy continued its feud with Naturally Limitless when Bishop Khan took on Dustin Rhodes in his hometown. We also saw the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn face the Varsity Athletes. Jade Cargill was in action, and so much more. Let's take a look at what went down during the show. Kicking things off, we see the Blackpool Combat Club take on the Best Amigos. And in this matchup, it was Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta versus Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Bandito. It was ultimately Jon Moxley and Bandito that kicked things off in this matchup between the Blackpool Combat Club and Best Amigos. In this matchup, I said that BCC would win, and they did. But that didn't take away from how enjoyable this was to watch. All six guys had their own moments throughout the match. Some things I see in here. They should revisit the feud between the Best Friends and Wheeler Yuta, as there really wasn't any closure on that. Mox seems so much more comfortable right now since he is a heel, which is nice to see because when he was a babyface, he never really acted like one. So here we go. The triple dive from Best Friends and Bandito also was pretty impressive. Jade Cargill had an open challenge for her TBS championship this week. Her opponent was a young woman named Danny B. This was a squash match. Mark Sterling then brought out another challenger for the championship. The second challenger was named Genesis. Jericho told a story about how she overcame a stroke to become a pro wrestler, as Jade then squashed her as well. There was a third opponent set to come out, but then Taya Valkyrie came out, and people said the commentators said that her suspension was lifted, so there was that. There wasn't really much to say about this. Jade picked up 2 easy wins, then set up the next big match. None of this was particularly entertaining per se, but it did serve its purpose. We didn't really get to hear the name of the competitor that Taya Valkyrie took out here, which is kind of a thing that goes on my mind about all this, but ultimately it's whatever. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn will take on the Varsity Athletes here as well. Anthony Bowens, Max Caster, and Billy Gunn took on Ari Daivari, Tony Nese, and Josh Woods in the third match of the night. Billy did most of the heavy lifting for his team before the show went to commercial. Woods, Daivari, and Nese took control during the break, but Caster was able to make the hot tag to Bowens shortly after coming back from commercial break. This time, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn were the ones with their hands raised at the end of the match, thanks to a mic drop from Max Caster. It is so weird how Billy doesn't look that big until you see him standing next to somebody else, and notice how much larger he is than most people. It feels like an optical illusion. Really. Also, the varsity athletes, they're booked differently in Ring of Honor, which is odd because it's the same guy running both companies. But this matchup was entertaining nonetheless. So yeah, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn got the victory here. After we saw Ethan Page and the Trash Boys attack Isaiah Cassidy and the Hardys, then we saw Bishop Khan take on Dustin Rhodes in the main event. Prince Nana was there with Khan, but Keith Lee chose not to accompany Dustin Rhodes to the ring. As soon as the Natural stepped through the ropes, Khan pounced on him. And this was a pretty decent main event here too. This was a solid singles match between a veteran and a rising star. Khan looks good, and after the Natural scored the win, Brian Cage and Swerve Strickland attacked him from behind. This brought out Keith Lee to make the save. After he had a little bit of success, Lee fell after taking a chair shot to the back. And the show ended with the Mogul Embassy standing tall. We saw a segment with Jericho challenging Cole to an unsanctioned match at Double or Nothing. He also ripped up the legal agreement that kept Cole out of the building. So Cole came through the crowd and fought him to the stage. It's always weird when we don't get a pre-match interview with Henry, but it's cool that he still gets to say the line. It looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. Dustin Rhodes was thrown into the corner and he ended up hitting the cameraman. It seemed like a planned impact, but it's hard to tell sometimes. I figured that this show was going to be a mediocre episode of Rampage, but actually this show was pretty solid. Every matchup except for Jade Cargill's stuff was pretty solid as a whole. Everything else was great. The Jade Cargill stuff, not as much. So, but I'm not going to let that ruin it too much. So I'll give Rampage this week a 4 out of 5 stars. It was that good. I was surprised. I got surprised yet again. But Resurgence results coming to you guys. Probably either Monday or Tuesday. Then don't forget Collision. I have a Collision episode where I'll talk about how I feel Collision should be booked within its roster and everything, like roster, titles, and more. New Japan Road is coming up soon too. And also, it's Best of the Super Juniors is still around too. Dominion is also coming up. So there's a lot going on for the summer. But yeah, there you go. This is TPW Talking Pro Wrestling. I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.